But it's good for everybody. It's good for everybody to be uh, to realize at this point in human history that you're no longer just a citizen of your nation. Wherever you live, whoever you are, you have one foot in the internet. And the internet is the real country, right? Like you spend half your time on the internet, half your friends are on the internet. You get your information from the internet, you get your education from the internet. In the future, you get your work from the internet. There will come a day when you roll out of bed, you get your alert on your phone with a new gig for you. You sign up for it, you get paid in crypto, you do your work in VR, you work when you want, where you want, how you want, with who you want. And then you get paid, and then you move on to the next gig, or you take a vacation for a while. And a citizen like that, a person like that, is essentially a digitally free person. Now, they're physically not free because they still have to live in a real country, and they have to have a family and a tribe and people that they love and that they associate with, and even a culture. But I think that digitally we're going to become a lot more free. Another example, well, someone's saying, isn't that true? Isn't that bullshit about the gig economy? Well, today the gig economy is kind of a low-end gig economy. It's like driving for Uber or delivering for Postmate. But I think we're going to see a much higher end gig economy emerge. But for that, we still need better remote work and communication tools. But I will say there's a lot of that going on right now. It's not digital slavery, it's digital freedom. To the Joshua Bowman and looking down and everything. No, man, it's digital freedom. It's tools. Look, the internet is a tool. Tools are there for you to use or not to use. They're voluntary. Slavery is when there's a collar around your neck and someone tells you what you can and can't do. But freedom is when you can choose whether or not to use a tool. Tools are leverage. We are living. We're tool-making creatures. We're tool-making monkeys, and we're living in an age of incredible tools. The smartphone that we're all communicating with is the greatest tool ever invented. The computer, programming that thing, that's so powerful. It's so much free leverage. You should all be using it. Even if you're not an engineer, you should know a little bit about code, and you should be good with computers, facile with computers, because it will give you a superpower edge in any profession that you end up in, because you'd be better at using the greatest tool invented by humans. Someone just said, I'm 21. I come from a poor family. I have an insane work ethic. Tell me how to get rich, Naval. Okay, let's do it. That's what I did my famous tweet storm about. It's pinned on my profile. You should go read it. Of course, every one of those tweets can be extrapolated into an hour's worth of conversation. But that's a good starting point. You kind of want to absorb all the different pieces, and whatever you don't understand, I can always extrapolate on much more. But I would say, the first thing that this person asked about how do I get rich is that I'm 21 and I have insane work ethics. It's not really work ethic that matters. Unfortunately, there are people who bust their butts 80 hours a week, 120 hours a week, whatever the insane numbers are, and they don't get rich. So it's not really about hard work, right? You can work in a restaurant, 80 hours a week, and you're not going to get rich. So it's about knowing what to do and knowing who to do it with and when to do it. So it is much more about understanding than it is purely about hard work. Yes, hard work matters and you can't skimp on it, but it has to be directed in the right way. And if you don't know yet what you should be working on, then that is the most important thing to figure out. And you probably shouldn't be grinding at a lot of hard work until you figure out what you should be working on. I would say that the most important skill to getting rich is becoming a perpetual learner. Okay, you have to know how to learn anything you want to learn. There should be no book in the library that scares you, whether it's a math book or a physics book or an electrical engineering book or a sociology book or an economics book. You should be able to take any book down off the shelf and read it. And guess what? A number of them are going to be too difficult for you. That's okay. Read them anyway. Then go back and reread them and reread them. When you're reading a book and you're not understanding a lot of what it's saying, and there's a lot of confusion in your mind about it, that confusion is similar to the pain, the burn that you get in a gym when you're working out. But this time you're building mental muscles instead of building physical muscles. So just learn how to learn and read the art books. So I would focus as much as I could on the solid foundations. Another way to do this is to read the originals, read the classics. If you want to learn evolution, read Charles Darwin. Don't even read Richard Dawkins, even though I think he's great. Read him later. First read Charles Darwin. You want to learn macroeconomics, first read Adam Smith. read von Mises, read Hayek. Start with the original, start with the philosophers of the economy. Even if you're into communist or socialist ideals, which I'm personally not, but even if you are, start by reading Karl Marx. Don't read the current interpretation of whatever someone is feeding you about how things should be done and run. So if you start with the originals or the foundations, then you will have enough of a worldview and understanding that you won't fear any book. And then you can just learn. And if you're a perpetual learning machine, you will never be out of options on how to make money, because you can always see what's coming up in society, what the value is, where the demand is, and you can learn and come up to speed. There's an old model of making money, which is that the old model of making money is like you go to school, you study for 4 years, you get your degree, and then you work in that profession for 30 years. But things change too fast now. So now you have to come up to speed in a new profession within 9 months, and it's obsolete 4 years later. But within those 3 years that you're productive in that profession, you can get very wealthy. So it's much more important that you be able to become an expert in a brand new field within 9 to 12 months than it is that you study the right thing a long time ago. All you really care about having studied before are the foundations, so that you're not scared of any book. So if you go into a library and there's a book that you cannot read and you cannot understand, then you have to dig down and say, what is the foundation required for me to learn this? And I better go brush up on those foundations. Foundations are super important. I will bet you that I'm a little older now, so my brain doesn't work as fast as it used to. But in my prime, you could have come to me and, we could have, for example, done math problems against each other, and I would have lost to you on every calculus problem. But it was a rare human being could beat arithmetic. And basic arithmetic and numeracy is way more important than being able to do calculus in life. Similarly, being able to convey yourself simply using ordinary English words is far more important than being able to write poetry or having a very extensive vocabulary or knowing 7 different foreign languages. Knowing how to just be persuasive when speaking, that sales skill is far more important than being an expert digital marketer and click optimizer on the internet. So foundations are key. It's just so much better to be a 9 out of 10 or a 10 out of 10 on foundations than to try and get super deep into things. Now, you do need to be deep in something because otherwise you'll be a mile wide and an inch deep and you won't get what you want out of life. But you can only achieve mastery in 1 or 2 things. It's usually the things that you're obsessed about at that time, and you have to sink a lot of time into it almost by definition. So you can't have mastery in everything. But if you have the foundations, then you can pick what you want to have mastery in, as opposed to just wish that, or just have got lucky that you stumbled into it at the right time in your life early on. Question is, Naval, what is your meditation routine? So we're going to talk about meditation for a moment. Meditation is a tough set. So if you guys could just stop the questions for a bit, I'm just going to talk about meditation. So let's all be meditative here for a moment. Thank you. I'm going to ignore questions for a while until I'm done talking about meditation. I'm literally going to stop looking at the screen, but talk about meditation so you can stop typing for a little while. Okay, meditation. Meditation is a very complicated thing. It's every person you talk to who meditates will give you a different almost definition, different observation, different what it's good for, different how you do it. So what I'm telling you, and some people like Kapil, who's kind of my coach guy, hates it. Okay, he hates the whole concept of meditation. But I'm going to tell you my version. I'm going to tell you what I learned that worked for me. First, I'm going to back up a little bit. By the way, there's a meditation master here. We're actually all meditation masters. So my meditation is no better than yours. I'm just telling you mine. Let's think about how your mind works. Okay, when you're walking down the street, your mind is usually associating. It's in free association. So it's basically saying, oh, this woman just crossed the street with a dog. Oh, I used to have a dog just like that. Oh, when I had a dog like that, I lived in that apartment. Oh, that apartment, God, that guy overcharged me. Oh, I hated that guy. So your mind is always just free associating and connecting things around you and having sort of this uncontrollable stream of thoughts. That's like kind of like your default, how your mind operates. Beyond that is contemplation. Contemplation is when you sit there and you direct your mind to one topic, to one subject. Scientists are essentially in contemplation. They're working on a specific problem. A poet, when they're like trying to figure out the right words for the poem, they're in contemplation. Sometimes an author can be in contemplation when they're plotting out the narrative for their book. Next, beyond that is concentration. Concentration is when your mind is focused on one thing. And this can be, you're surfing and you're riding a wave. You're driving a car at a high speed around a bend. It could be you're having sex with somebody. Your mind is focused on that act. So concentration is when your mind is single-pointed. Most meditation techniques are concentration methods. And there are many, many meditation techniques. If you ever want to run through a bunch of them, you can pick up a book called The Book of Secrets by Osho. And I know he's gotten a bad rap recently, but he was a pretty smart guy. But there's a book called The Book of Secrets by Osho. And it's actually a translation. It's a translation of an old, I believe, Sanskrit book that has something like 120 different meditations in it. And you can try each one. You can just see which one works for you. The one that works best for me is the fourth state of mind. So concentration, what you're trying to do, either with a mantra or watching your breath, is you're trying to bring your mind to what's called a single-pointed state. And then once it is focused on this one object that is concentrating on, your mind is supposed to disappear. It's supposed to basically drop the mantra or drop the breath watching on its own without effort, and your mind is supposed to stop. And then you have a chance to see what you're really like underneath this anxiety-filled barrage of thoughts that you're always having. So the last thing that you're trying to get to, the last stage after association, contemplation, and concentration is meditation. Meditation is the art of doing nothing. You cannot do meditation. By definition, if you're doing something, you're not in meditation. Meditation is a state you're in when you're not doing anything. When you're not doing anything physically, when you're not doing anything mentally, when you're not doing anything consciously. You're just making no effort. You're literally being completely still, physically and mentally, inside and out. That is a state that you're trying to achieve. But there is an oxymoron, which is for true meditation, you're not even there. The thing that's trying to achieve the state of meditation cannot actually be there in full meditation. So the method that I learned was basically that you just sit there and you close your eyes, and for at least 1 hour a day, you surrender to whatever happens. You don't make any effort whatsoever. You make no effort for something. You make no effort against something. If something travels through your mind, then you let it go. If there are thoughts that are running through your mind, you let the thoughts run. What's kind of going on is that your entire life, things have been happening to you. Some good, some bad, most of which you processed and resolved, but a few that stuck with you. And over time, they stuck more and more with you, and they almost became like these barnacles stuck to you. And you lost your childhood, your childhood sense of wonder and being present and being happy. You lost your inner happiness because you built up this personality of unresolved pain and errors and fears and desires that have glommed onto you like a bunch of barnacles. And now how do you get those barnacles off of you? How do you strip them off of you? Well, what happens in meditation is when you're sitting there and not resisting your mind, these things will start bubbling up. It's like a giant inbox of unanswered emails, tens of thousands of emails going back to your childhood, and they will come out one by one, and you will be forced to deal with them. You will be forced to resolve them. And resolving them doesn't take any work. You just observe them. But now that you're an adult, now that you have some distance in time and space from previous events, you can sort of just resolve them. You can be much more objective about how you view them. Someone just mentioned peyote. Yes, that psychedelics are a bit of a cheat code in this, although I don't recommend drugs for anybody because I think you can do it all through pure meditation. If you wanted to accelerate ahead, psychedelics are good for that. There's a good book that Michael Pollan wrote recently called How to Change Your Mind. And I think that is a brilliant book that everybody should read. In any case, so with meditation, over time, you will resolve a lot of these deep-seated, unresolved things that you have in your mind, and it is different for everybody. And once they're resolved, there will come a day when you sit down in the morning to meditate. And I recommend morning 1 hour a day because anything less is not enough time to really get deep into it. But I would recommend, if you really want to try meditation, do 60 days, 1 hour a day, first thing in the morning. And if you sit there, do that, after about 60 days, you will sort of be tired of listening to your own life. You will have resolved a lot of your issues, or you have to hurt them enough that you will know, you have kind of steam through those fears and those issues. And what will happen is one morning, you're going to hit mental inbox zero. Okay, if you know the inbox zero concept, when you open your email and there are no emails and zero email. And that is a pretty amazing feeling. That is now I don't want to describe this because it's kind of nonsense to use these descriptors for other people, but it's a state of somewhere between joy and bliss and peace. And once you have that, you don't want to give that up. If you can get a free hour of bliss every morning just by sitting and closing your eyes, that's worth its weight in gold. That will change your life. In terms of how to sit still for an hour, by the way, meditation isn't hard. All you have to do is sit there and do nothing. Just sit down, close your eyes and say, I'm just going to give myself a break for an hour. This is my hour off from life. This is the hour I'm not going to do anything. Yes, if thoughts come, thoughts will come. I'm not going to fight them. I'm not going to embrace them. I'm not going to think harder about them. I'm not going to reject them. I'm just going to sit here for an hour with my eyes closed, and I'm going to do nothing. How hard is that? Why can you not do anything for an hour? What's so hard about that? Just give yourself an hour break. That's it. I actually don't recommend the apps. I love what the Headspace and Calm guys are doing, and I'm a big fan of them. But for what I just described, that method will not work with an app, because the app will clutter your mind with the instructions of the app. No music, no noise, no sound. Just sit in a quiet, dark place. Put your back against something. If it's the first thing in the morning, you're not going to fall back asleep, so it's okay to lean. You don't need any fancy postures or poses. You just need to sit down in such a way that you're comfortable. So put pillows underneath your knees, put big cushions underneath your butt, whatever it takes. Get super comfy, because you don't want to move for the next hour. You just want to relax completely and do nothing. All you're doing is giving yourself 1 hour off. I think the apps are great training wheels, but at some point you got to learn how to ride the bike. Someone asked, can you talk about going through and resolving those thoughts? The thoughts resolve themselves. I know that sounds hard to believe, but you just kind of have to sit there with them. That's all. The reason they don't get resolved is because you're running away from them, because you're fighting them. If you sit there with something long enough, it will get resolved. Listen, all day long, there are things that bother us. And those things sit in front of us and annoy us until 10 minutes later, they're gone, and the next thing is bothering us. So when you sit with something long enough, it does go away. It's not like it stays there forever, but some things just take more time. But there's nothing to do other than just to let it be. Just let it come up, just watch it, let it be. How do you know you hit inbox zero? Oh, you'll know. It's not subtle. When you hit inbox zero, then meditation arrives. And when meditation arrives, this is a whole different beast. My drug of choice, honestly, these days is meditation. Somebody asked me my drug of choice is. I like red wine, I will high. And living in California, we've all tried cannabis here and there, but meditation, that's my main drug of choice. That's the one that I get high on every day. What is the noise behind you? It's the fireplace. Someone asked, does seeking inbox zero defeat the point of it? Yeah, in some very deep sense, yes. Like for true meditation, you can't have an objective. You can't be seeking anything. But I assume I'm talking to a general audience here, not to advanced practitioners. For a super advanced practitioner, you don't want to seek anything. But it is kind of contradictory. It's like, well, then why sit down and meditate in the first place? You can sound really clever by saying, there's no point to it. You're not supposed to do anything, and there's no reason to do it, nor should you seek it. But then you actually wouldn't do it. So it would defeat itself. You defeat yourself at the starting line. Do I think you should avoid salaried work? Let me switch gears for a second. If people could stop asking questions for a moment, and let's talk about different kinds of work. Okay, let's talk about how you make money in different kinds of work. And, very few of us are lucky enough to start out with anything other than salary. We all start with salary work. My first job was kind of in an illegal catering company in the back of a van delivering Indian food when I was 15. That was my first organized job. I had many jobs before that. I had paper around. I washed dishes in the cafeterias. So I've done them all. I've done all those jobs, right? So I've done salaried jobs, and you have to start with shitty salaried jobs. You got to work your way up. What helped me work my way up was I just hated these jobs. So I wanted to do something better. I wanted to do something more intellectual. So I kind of earned my way up into better and better and bigger jobs. But it was only when I got to Silicon Valley that I got, educated on the kind of the value of owning business and getting out of salaried job. And so that is super important. Like, everybody should aspire to that. So let me see if I can come with a good example, right? Like, let's talk about the real estate business for a moment. It's like very real, tangible business, right? So the worst kind of job is, you're someone who's like repairing a house. You're like a construction worker, right? So, maybe you get paid $10, $15, $20 an hour, and you have to go to people's houses, and you have to go there at a specific time. You have to show up at 8 a.m. and your boss demands that you're there, and you kind of just repair little pieces of the house, right? So here you have zero leverage because it's just whatever you're doing with your own hands. You have some accountability, but not really. Your accountability is to your boss. It's not to the ultimate client. It's not to the owner of the house. And you don't have any real specific knowledge. The things that you're doing are, bare labor that almost anybody can do. So you're just not going to get paid a lot. You're getting paid minimum wage plus a little bit for your skill and your time, and depending on where you are, and that's kind of it. The next level up might be the contract, right? The general contractor who's working on the house for the owner. That person may be getting paid, let's call it $50,000 to do the whole thing, and then they're paying the laborer $15 an hour, and they're keeping the difference. Okay, so that's obviously a better place to be, but how do we measure that? How do we know that's better? Well, we know it's better because this person has some accountability, right? They have some accountability because they're responsible for the outcome. So they have to sweat it at night if things aren't working right. And then they also have some leverage, and they have not a great formal leverage, but they have people working for it, and that's the labor. And they have a little bit more specific knowledge, and that knowledge is how to organize a team and make people show up on time, and how to deal with city regulations and those kinds of things, right? Well, the next level up from that might be a developer, right? Now, a developer is someone who is going to actually go and buy a crappy house, and then they're going to hire a bunch of contractors, and they're going to build that house. And they're probably going to get a loan to buy the house. They probably don't even have the money themselves. They go to investors, they raise the money, then they buy the shell of a bad house, they tear down that house, they rebuild it, and they sell it. Now, a good developer could make, instead of $50,000 like a general contractor or $15 an hour like the laborer, the developer might be able to make $1 million or $500,000 in profit when they sell the house for more than they bought it for, including the expenses of construction. But now notice what's required from a developer. Very high level of accountability, right? By the way, someone just asked me, Naval already get taxed? Actually, no. Very simple answer to that is people like me are highly globally mobile. We leave. So what taxing capital does, it causes capital. Taxing entrepreneurs reduces entrepreneurs. United States loss is somebody else's gift. So I'm not worried about me. I'm worried about my kids. I'm worried about the next generation who wants the American dream to stay alive. Anyway, going back to my example, the developer takes on more risk, more accountability, has more leverage, and needs to have more specific knowledge. They need to understand fundraising. They need to understand the ins and outs of city regulations. They need to understand where the real estate market is headed and whether they should take that risk on or not. So, that's a difficult one. And then the next level up from that might be someone who's running a fund on real estate. And that person has an enormous amount of capital leverage, and they're dealing with lots and lots of developers, and maybe they're buying huge amounts of houses and inventory. One level above that might be a company like Open Door that's writing code to buy inventory of and carrying a massive book of houses. So you see at each level how increasing leverage, increasing accountability, increasing specific knowledge, adding in money-based leverage on top of labor-based leverage, adding in code-based leverage on top of money and labor allows you to actually create something bigger and bigger and get closer and closer to owning all the upside and not just being paid a salary. So generally, when you're working in life, yes, you start as a salaried employee, but you essentially want to work your way up this stack that I just talked about to try and get to higher and higher leverage, accountability, and specific knowledge. And the combination of those over a long enough period of time with the magic of compound interest will make you wealthy.